All right, everybody, we're back here for round number one. Again, we're going over the replays of the MOCS Showcase event that was this past weekend. So going back to our metagame sheet, we're playing against Sam, Party, Smdster on one. We expected Sam to be on the White-Red Heliod deck that he had been playing mostly for the past couple of weeks. I know he dabbled in Amulet a little bit, so I put Amulet as his second deck, but I was pretty confident that he was going to play that White-Red Heliod deck. I believe he either top-8'd or won a challenge with it. I think he'd had a couple league results with it. I was pretty confident that he was going to play the Heliod deck. So that's what we're up against most likely. Again, not 100% sure, but... Alright, let's see what we got. We did win the die roll, which is good. Pretty sure I chose to play. Reveal Luris. Alright. Now, we open on this hand. Now, this hand looks bad. Well, does it look bad? I don't know. So, the thing about this matchup, specifically the white-red Heliod deck as opposed to the green-white Heliod deck, is I think Fatal Push is actually a lot better in this matchup because they're less likely to go 1 into 3 because they don't have Arbor Elf or Utopia Sprawl. So Fatal Pushing, Fatal Push is a lot more live against this deck, I think. Obviously, the green-white deck could have Arbor Elf, but if you kept a hand like this against green-white Heliod, and you say you Thoughtseize them on 1, you take maybe their 4-drop, and they just play Utopia Sprawl on turn 1, you can't Fatal Push it, and then you kind of have to cycle the Bauble to find a second land drop to get things going. And then, you don't have a Revolt trigger for a 3-drop if they play that. So I'm actually fine keeping this hand. It's not the best hand in the world. But if we draw a fetch land, we can go turn 1. I'm going to cycle the Bauble on turn 1. We get perfect information for our Thoughtseize. We can go Thoughtseize on 1, hopefully draw a fetch land. Fetch land puts us at 15, so I guess we'd have to draw back-to-back fetch lands to turn on the Death Shadow, but we have a Thoughtseize, a Fatal Push. I guess that TPR is kind of a blank in this hand, as well as the Scourge, because their deck doesn't have as many fetch lands, so they're not really dealing themselves that much damage. But I did go ahead and keep this. Looking back, maybe I should have mulliganed. But we have perfect information on a Thoughtseize. We have a removal spell with a cantrip. It's just, our threats are a little bit hard to cast, and this TBR is almost like a mulligan. But TBR is one of the ways you can punch through an Auriok Champion game 1, so it's not necessarily a stone cold mulligan. I did keep this. Alright, we baubled them, which they showed us a Ranger Captain. We're going to Thoughtseize them. And we see this hand. Now, knowing they have a Ranger Captain on top, obviously not going to take Ranger Captain. Also, they're stuck on 1 land. I think for me, this is just an easy Auriok Champion. There's an argument for taking Path to Exile, but 1, we're stuck on land anyways. And 2, they... what was I going to say? We want them to path us, basically, if we don't draw a land. Because if we don't draw a land, we can't cast threats anyways. And, well, I guess the other theory is, in order to cast your threats, you need to draw lands, and by the time you drew 2 lands, the path is a little bit better, because you already have 3 lands. But Auriok Champion is just the one card that we can't interact with, so I think it's just a pretty easy Auriok Champion there. Okay, they drew, played land, passed. So at this point, we know their hand is... Where'd it go? These 6 cards. So we drew a fetch land, pretty good. Then we drew a Lightning Bolt. Let's see here. Go to my main phase. So, now, I actually think I made a really bad play looking at their hand now. Now, obviously, we know they don't have a second land in hand, right? What I should have done was just played land and say go. Because if they draw a second land, they're going to play Aspirant, we can just kill it. If we draw another fetch land, we can play a 3/3 Shadow, which can't get ballisted. For some reason, I thought that I wanted to get this Shadow into play as soon as possible to make it so I could cast Scourge. The problem is, if I Fetch Shock and Bolt myself, I go to 12, and if they draw land, they can just kill my Death Shadow. And I'm still in the same spot where they're at 20, I don't have a Shadow anymore, I have a Scourge I can't cast, and a TBR that doesn't do anything. So I think I made a horrible play this turn. Looking back on it, for some reason I just like blanked on them having this Ballista, because if I thought if they drew land, they were just going to cast Aspirant. But obviously, if I make this play, they're just going to Ballista my guy. It's pretty obvious, right? So I end up making this play that I think is pretty bad. But I guess, yeah, what I should have done is just play to land and say go. If they play Aspirant, I can just push Aspirant, bolt them, untap, play Scourge, and just slow roll the Shadow a bit. Now, they drew a land. Thankfully, it was a Sunbaked Canyon, so I can actually cast my Scourge. But they're obviously going to Ballista my thing. Now, I mean, there is some consideration to, like, being okay with them trading 1-for-1 Ballista for Shadow, but I could have just easily avoided that. So I think this was a bad play. I drew a Thoughtseize. Now, again, we know their hand right now is... You know, most of the stuff I thought that we didn't really care too much about, because we still have Fatal Push in our hand. If we draw a fetch land, then we're good to go. So I wanted to just deploy a threat here. We gotta start pressuring them. If they do draw land, they have to pay a life to cast one of their X3s. If we draw a removal spell, then it's fine. They drew a Vial, which I thought was kind of whatever. We drew a Kroxa. Now, we know their hand has no lands in it. We know there are 5 cards in their hand, so there's no point in playing Kroxa before combat. So I'm just going to immediately go to combat, see what they do. I don't remember if they pathed me here or not. I don't think they did. Yeah, that's true. It's not a 1-for-1 because I bolted myself. That's a good point. Yeah, that play was just bad. So, they decided to take the damage. Now, again, I could Thoughtseize them. If I Thoughtseize them, there's a chance they path in response, which, like... Given that I have Kroxa, maybe that's actually a better play. I ended up just casting Kroxa here, but maybe I'm supposed to just force them to cast the Path. Because let's say I Thoughtseize and they don't cast Path, I'm probably just taking Path, because if they don't draw land, they're going to play Aspirant, which I have Fatal Push for. If they do draw land for Archon, they have to deal a point of damage themselves to cast it, which means I have a 3/3, which can attack through the Archon. So, I wonder if I'm supposed to cast Thoughtseize here. If they path me, then what am I taking? I guess I'm probably taking one of the Ranger Captains, because they're both 2-for-1s. The nice thing about Thoughtseize is I get to hold up Fatal Push to basically brick their turn. Like, if they draw land, that's not necessarily true, because they're going to play a 3-drop. So if they draw land, I don't get to use my mana. If they don't draw land, it's good, because I can just push their Luminarch Aspirant. Initially, I thought I wanted to be mana efficient with the Kroxa, but I actually think maybe it's just better to Thoughtseize them and hold up Fatal Push here. Because if they want to path my Scourge, I'm okay with that. It just gets me closer to Kroxa. And they don't have a Skyclave in their hand right now to deal with Kroxa, so... I think I Kroxa'd here, but I think I was supposed to Thoughtseize. Yeah. Because I think any outcome of the Thoughtseize is good for me. I think they discarded... Yeah, it makes sense. They want to keep all their 2-for-1s. I think they drew a land here. Oh, they didn't. Okay, so they drew an Auriok shape, and yep, that's what they drew. Okay. So that's unfortunate. And they're at 17, where we can't really deal them any more damage. So we know their hand is Ranger, Aspirant, Path. I think I ended up double Thoughtseizing here and taking both Ranger Captains. And then my thought process was Thoughtseize them twice, take both Ranger Captains, and then I push to deal with the Aspirant. And if they draw nothing else, I guess they're just going to path my Scourge. But if they path my Scourge and I draw land... What's up, Brian? If they path my Scourge and I draw land, then they can make this Auriok Champion a 2/2, which after double Thoughtseize is a 4-turn clock. So let's assume I double Thoughtseize, go to 8, say go. I take both the Ranger Captains. They play Aspirant, attack me for 2, I go to 10. They path my Scourge, I draw a land, I push their Aspirant. They attack me for 2, I go to 4. Play Kroxa. I guess Croxa doesn't necessarily win that race. I guess if they drew absolutely nothing, it would, because it would be 6 and then 12, because I would be able to TBR at 2 life. But that's a tall ask. Getting the blue illusion is not the end of the world stops. Yeah, that's true, too. If they drew Skyclave, like, if they drew exactly Skyclave and I got to push their Skyclave, I mean, I guess, like, the question is, do I cast 1 Thoughtseize, 2 Thoughtseize, or no Thoughtseize? Because that's really my only option this turn. I felt like I had to take their Ranger Captains. But maybe I was supposed to just take... What if I just take Path, Aspirin, and leave them with both Rangers? Is that crazy? If they draw land, they cast Ranger. They have to take a point to do it. Go to 16. I have a 4/4. I guess they just won't attack with the champion if I do that. Yeah. So I guess, like, Thoughtseizing the Ranger Captains incentivizes them to try and race. But they also just have Path, which means it's really hard for me to race anyways. Right, exactly. I think the only way, like, maybe hypothetically, what if you take Path and 1 Ranger Captain? If they brick on land, they play Aspirant, they're kind of incentivized to try and race with the champion because you're at 8 and they can make a 2/2 champion. Now, I would just be able to push the Aspirant, get in for 3, maybe 4 if they took a point. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm supposed to do that. Maybe I'm supposed to take Path and 1 Ranger Captain and just kind of hope they try and race. The problem with Lurrus is I don't have time for that. I'm going to be at 8 if I cast double Thoughtseize. You know what I mean? 1 Thoughtseize, grab the Captain, keep up push for Lumi. Yeah. Well, if I push their Lumi, maybe they just don't attack then. But is that good for me? I guess maybe it is, because maybe I could just play the long game with Lurrus. Maybe that was the play. Thoughtseize a Captain, hold up push for Lumi. If they go for Aspirant, I push it, they probably don't attack. Maybe they end up... Well, see, that's the thing, is then they're not incentivized to Path, because they just have a blocker for the Scourge, so they're not even going to Path me at that point. Apoon021, thank you for the follow. This is a really tough spot. I ended up double Thoughtseizing the Rangers, but I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here. I think Thoughtseize 1 Ranger hold up push is reasonable. It's really tough. I'm just in a really bad spot. And I obviously still can't attack. I think this game would have been a lot easier if I just didn't let them trade Ballista for Shadow for no reason. That play was just so bad. Yeah, and now they're in a spot where they can start racing. They drew Idyllic Grange. I drew a card I can't cast. Pretty trivial from here. I'll just kind of play it out as it goes, but... Yeah, really unfortunate that I just spewed that bolt off the first turn. That play was just really bad. That's where I lost this game. Hi, Doomig. I think we played before. I'm Eclipse 4343 Miracle Guy on NTGO. I just wanted to say I definitely respect how much thought you put into each scenario. Is Death Shadow your primary deck? Yes, it is, Apoon. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Maybe you estimated your situation to be worse than it really was, so you punished. Right, exactly. Like, I thought... I mean, honestly, looking back on the situation, I think I could have easily beaten their hand if I had just not played aggressively. I really think that this was a very winnable game. And obviously the game looks completely different if I don't take that line. Like, the game is wildly different. But I just took a very aggressive line, and I think it was really bad. So that was game 1. We'll go to game 2 here. For some reason, I just, like, my mind bricked... and I forgot. Oh, also, for those of you who are interested and haven't joined yet, join the Discord, ! Discord in the chat. For those of you on YouTube, I'll put a link in the Discord below the stream. I actually posted this deck list as well as a slightly small sideboard guide along with it in the Discord, so be sure to check that out. And I just basically used my sideboard guide for sideboarding in this matchup. So we cut a K command and a Kroxa and 4 Bowmats. We brought in 3 Kozilek's Returns, 2 Engineered Explosives, and 1 Fatal Push. Spoiler, yeah. Alright, so we're on the play for game 2. We open up with this hand. This hand's fine. You know, nothing special. I think this hand's a pretty clear keep in my estimation. We have a removal spell. We have a bauble to fix our draw step. We have Inquisition. I believe what I ended up doing was just casting the Inquisition and waiting for the bauble on turn 2. Did I bauble them? Okay, so there's 2 arguments here. You could bauble them to try and find something to do on turn 2, because as of right now, we don't really have much to do on turn 2. Or you could save the bauble and then use bauble fetchland trick next turn. It's really close. I'm not actually sure what is 100% correct. I think because I don't have a turn 2 play, cycling it now is fine. But I don't know, it's tough. Yeah, the matchup is not great. I think either option is fine. I tend to be a little bit more aggressive with my baubles, but that's just how I play. We're Nora, thank you for the follow, appreciate that. Alright, so we bauble them, they have a path on top. Again, you want to bauble first to get more information off of your discard spell. And we Inquisition them, excuse me, and this is their hand. It's kind of a tough hand. I think there's really only 2 options. Aether Vial, Auriok Champion. I think anything else is kind of crazy. Given that they have 1 land, and we know they have a Path to Exile on top, I'm pretty sure it's just easily Aether Vial. But, I don't know. You would have scooped? I ended up taking Aether Vial, which I think is correct, given this hand, and we know that their top card is not a land. Just makes it so they kind of have to play at sorcery speed. It makes it a little bit more awkward for them. It makes it so maybe they play into our removal spells more. So I think it's a pretty easy vial for me. Oh, well, I did not take Aether Vial. Why didn't I take Aether Vial? Man, what was I thinking? I don't know why I took Auriok Champion. That was really bad. Maybe I thought... Man, they even have 3 1-drops. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't take Vial. That was just dumb. Reptar with the 6 months says, Monkey. Thanks for the 6 months, buddy. Welcome back to the Doom Room. Appreciate that. Yeah, I don't really know why I didn't take Aether Vial there, chat. I don't know why. Them hitting land 2 is very good, but we can still draw it if they get to play champ. Yeah, not taking Aether Vial was just really bad. Did I head the 34th land? Maybe I did. Yeah, I think not taking Vial there was just really dumb. And they obviously draw a land immediately. As expected. I didn't Dismember there because I wanted to see if I could draw a Lightning Bolt, because I think I'd rather save Dismember and or Fatal Push, because they have things like Luminarch Aspirant in their deck. And I thought there was no chance that I would put Lurrus into my hand this turn. If you bauble them and see Path on top, you might not Inquisition on one. I think not playing Inquisition is a little greedy. Right, yeah. So I guess maybe because of that, maybe I was supposed to end of turn Dismember so I could Lurrus this turn, and I probably would have Lurrus this turn if I had Dismembered. But now because I know they have a second Giver, I can't really afford to Dismember here. So I kind of have to go Thoughtseize, Dismember, and Shadow, which is what I did. But I kind of put myself in a bad spot because I didn't Dismember end of turn. So this is their 3-card hand. I end up taking Skyclave. The game's not going to last long enough for them not to draw their third land, plus they have the Vial on 3, and I think Skyclave is just the best of those cards. So we end up killing that, played a Shadow, said go. How did I do in the MOCS Championship? It would have been the most popular deck in the higher tiers of Modern competition. Whenever I've top-ended the last few challenges, I feel like Modern has been extremely diverse, so there's a ton of blue-red prowess and Titan running around. I don't want to spoil it because I'm recording this for YouTube, so I'm not gonna spoil what ended up happening in the MOCS. But yeah, I do agree with that sentiment as far as what's up, Tron Walker. As far as the metagame is concerned, I agree with that. So yeah, I played this game pretty badly. I didn't take their 8th or Vial. I think the rest of the turns have been fine. You could argue that maybe I was supposed to dismember there. They chopped me down, so we know their last card is Path. So I thought to use their Path and put Lurrus in my hand. So, like, I mean, we're not in the worst spot. We're at 4. We get to put Lurrus in our hand. Could be worse. Could be a lot worse. They have a 1-2, which is whatever. And they draw Ballista, which is actually really bad for me because I don't have a removal spell, and now I'm kind of just dead on board if I play Lurrus. So I'm at 3. Let's go to my main phase here. So now, if we play Lurrus, Death Shadow, they can... if I play Lurrus, Death Shadow, does that not kill me? Oh, I'm dead if they draw a land, right? If I play Lurrus, Death Shadow, and they draw a land, they go give this pro-black, attack me for 2, shoot me. Because both my creatures are black. So, but I'm dead to a land no matter what I do. Because unless I Mishra's Bauble into a Lightning Bolt, which is, I think, the line that I took. I think I ended up going Lurrus Bauble. Because no, because if I go Lurrus Bauble, I'm dead on board. Right? If I Lurrus Bauble and I don't draw a removal spell, they just go tap my Lurrus, attack me for 2, and shoot me for 1. So if I Lurrus Bauble and don't draw a removal spell, I'm dead on board. If I Lurrus Shadow and they draw a land, I'm dead on board. Or Luminarch, yeah. So is it more likely that they draw a land or I draw a removal spell? Well, actually, I'm dead to a land no matter what line I take, right? I think it's probably better to play Shadow because it makes it so they have to draw a land as opposed to me having to draw a removal spell. So I think me having to draw a removal spell is less likely. Itachi-san, thanks for the follow. So I think I'm supposed to lure a Shadow here. I don't remember what I did. Oh, yeah, that was dumb. Why did I do that? I guess I was... Oh, I did that because I was trying to draw Kozilek's Return. I thought that for some reason my only out was K-Return, but I just put myself dead on board. But I guess it's the same thing as Lurrus Bobbling, right? I draw a removal spell either way. Oh, that's why. Okay, so I decided that I wanted to Lurrus Bobble in case I drew a removal spell, but if I Lurrus Bobble, I don't give myself the out of drawing Kozilek's Return. That's why I did that first. So now... Oh, but now if I draw a removal spell, then I'm just dead on board, right? By the way I did it. That's tough. Yeah, I don't know. I screwed this game up a lot. They have an Apparition on top, so I didn't think it mattered. I think I was dead no matter what line I took, because they had exactly Apparition on top. But yeah, game 1, that Lightning Bolt was really bad, a little too aggressive, and then this game, not taking their Vial was really bad. I think I just played this match pretty badly. I'm not really sure what happened. Yeah, I don't like the way I played this match, chat. Probably why I lost. But yeah, hopefully that was a little insightful as to, you know, how this matchup usually goes, and hope you learned a lesson. Don't play bad like I do. And I'll see you in just a little bit for the second round.